Jamal, adjusting the cuffs of his tailored suit as he steps out of the cafe, his posture relaxed yet aware, softly to himself. Another day, another deal. He strides confidently toward his luxury car, the weight of years of hard work evident in every step. He doesn't rush, he doesn't have to, he belongs here. Or at least he should. Across the street, Officer Ryan Whitaker watches, his grip tightening on his belt. His eyes scan Jamal, not as a man, not as a businessman, but as a suspect. Whitaker, raising his voice, already assuming authority. "Hey, you, hands where I can see them." Jamal stops, his fingers brushing the smooth metal of his car keys. His heartbeat quickens, but his face remains composed. He turns slowly, his hands slightly raised, not in surrender, but in warning. Jamal. Calm, steady. "Is there a problem, officer?" Whitaker steps closer, eyes narrowing. He's seen this type before, too confident, too sure of himself. Whitaker, cold, impatient. Identification, now. Jamal doesn't move. Years of experience tell him that compliance won't always save you and silence won't always protect you. He chooses his words carefully. Jamal, measured, unwavering. "Am I being detained?" Whitaker's jaw tightens. A challenge. He doesn't like challenges. "Whitaker," voice clipped, warning, "don't play games with me. You look like someone we've been looking for." Jamal exhales slowly. The first trap is set. If he moves too fast, it's resistance. If he questions too much, it's defiance. Either way, he loses. A few bystanders pause, watching. A phone screen lifts discreetly. Someone else whispers, "What's going on?" Whitaker, growing impatient, voice rising. "You refusing to comply," I said. Without warning, Whitaker grabs Jamal's wrist, twisting it behind his back. Jamal, gritted teeth, trying to stay calm. "There's no need for this." Whitaker, mocking, tightening the grip. "Stop resisting." The words are sharp. A lie. The kind of lie that has ended too many lives. The cold steel of the cuffs bite into Jamal's wrists. The weight of the moment crashes down, not just on him, but on every man who's been here before. Every man who never walked away from it. The crowd grows, murmurs turning into hushed outrage. A woman whispers, "He didn't do anything." Another man shakes his head, recording. Whitaker, leaning in, voice low, smug. Just another thug pretending to belong. Jamal closes his eyes for a moment. The words sting, but they don't break him. He exhales sharply, his voice calm, almost tired. "Jamal, soft but firm, and just another cop proving me right." A shift, a ripple through the crowd. The camera lenses sharpen their focus. The world is watching. Jamal, face pressed against the pavement, breath slow and controlled, fingers twitching against the cold concrete. Softly to himself, barely above a whisper. "Not like this." The murmurs swell. A boy clutches his mother's hand, eyes wide, staring at the scene unfolding before him. She tries to turn him away, but he resists. He needs to see. He needs to understand. A phone screen glows in the hands of a bystander, recording. Others whisper, muttering words that slip through the crowd like a slow-moving current. Bystander 1, low uneasy. "He didn't do anything." Bystander 2, shaking his head, voice tightening with anger. "Doesn't matter. They never need a reason." Jamal's mind is a flood, memories crashing over him in waves. Mother, years ago in a hushed but urgent voice. "When, not if, when a cop stops you, you keep your hands where they can see them. You don't talk back. You don't give them." A reason. He remembers the first time he was followed in a store, a clerk eyeing him as if he was already guilty of something. He remembers the boardroom meetings, where his ideas were ignored until someone else, someone who didn't look like him, repeated them. He remembers because this moment is not just about today, it's about all the times he had to prove his worth, only to still end up here. Whitaker, standing tall, voice dripping with authority, eyes sweeping over the crowd. Suspect was resisting. "This is standard procedure." The words are practiced, effortless, a well-worn lie. Jamal clenches his jaw. His muscles stiffen, but he says nothing. He knows how the game is played. Sergeant Lisa Martinez steps onto the scene, her eyes flicking between Jamal, the crowd, and Whitaker. Whitaker, before she can speak, tone clipped and rehearsed. Suspicious individual. Uncooperative. Jamal lifts his head, locking eyes with Martinez. His voice is calm, controlled, yet laced with a quiet demand. Jamal, evenly measured. Check the security cameras. For a split second, something flickers in her expression. Martinez, hesitating, eyes narrowing, her instincts unsettled. Let's confirm his ID. Whitaker, sharp, irritated, pushing back. He refused to comply. We don't need to waste time. A moment. A shift in energy. The other officers glance at each other, silent, hesitant, but unmoving. Martinez doesn't argue. She just reaches for her radio. Dispatch crackling through the radio, the response coming fast and unshakable. Jamal Carter. No criminal record. Harvard graduate. CEO of Carter Innovations. Martinez stiffens. Her fingers tighten around the radio. The man on the ground isn't just innocent, he's a leader, a success story. And yet he's still here. Bystander 3, louder now, filled with anger. He's a businessman, not a criminal. A woman in the crowd holds up her phone, replaying the footage. The screen doesn't lie. Jamal never resisted. The truth is there, for all to see. Martinez steps forward, her voice low but unshakable. Martinez, firm, eyes locked on Whitaker. We need to release him, now. A ripple of motion in the crowd. An off-duty officer shifts uneasily, watching. Something about Whitaker's behavior feels familiar. He dials a number, stepping away, his voice urgent. Off-duty officer, tense, into the phone. Yeah, it's him. Check internal affairs, I think we've got a problem. A beat, then confirmation. Dispatch, grim, matter of fact. Whitaker is under investigation, multiple complaints, excessive force, racial profiling. The truth isn't just whispered anymore. It's about to break open. Martinez, stepping forward, voice even but firm, eyes locked onto Whitaker. That's enough. The crowd stills. The air is thick with tension. Bystanders clutch their phones, recording every second. Jamal remains on the ground, his wrists raw from the cuffs, his breaths measured, refusing to show defeat. Martinez glances at him, then exhales, shaking her head. This shouldn't have happened. Martinez, softer now but resolute. Unlock the cuffs. Whitaker doesn't move. His jaw tightens. He is losing control of the moment, and he knows it. Whitaker, gritted teeth, shaking. His head. He resisted. Martinez, sharper, unwavering, I said, unlock the cuffs. A beat. Whitaker's nostrils flare, but he steps back as another officer moves forward, reaching for the key. The click of metal releasing echoes louder than it should. A murmur spreads through the crowd. Relief, vindication, disbelief. Jamal flexes his wrists, red mark staining his skin. He stands slowly, ignoring the ache in his body. His eyes meet Whitaker's, not with anger, but with something far worse. Certainty. The crowd erupts, applause, cheering, but Jamal doesn't. Smile. He doesn't raise his fists or bow his head. His suit is wrinkled, his dignity bruised, but his posture remains unbroken. He stands because he was always meant to stand. Bystander 1, whispering, awed. He didn't break. Bystander 2, clutching their phone, shaking their head in disbelief. They really thought they could do this to him. Jamal doesn't gloat, he doesn't have to. He simply exists, strong, undeniable, proof of what was never meant to be denied. Whitaker, face red, voice cracking with fury, desperate to regain control. This is ridiculous. I was doing my job. His authority is crumbling, slipping through, his fingers like sand. He looks around for support, but no one steps in. Martinez, cutting him off, tone like a blade through the air. Enough. We have enough complaints against you. This is being handled now. Whitaker lets out a sharp, bitter laugh, one without humor, one filled with disbelief. Whitaker, mocking but unsteady. You can't be serious. Martinez doesn't waver. She steps closer, her presence absolute, her command final. Martinez. Deadly calm, Ryan Whitaker. Put your hands behind your back. A stunned silence, gasps ripple through the crowd. Phones lift higher. Justice is rarely this swift, this direct, this undeniable. Whitaker's face turns crimson, his chest rising and falling too fast. His eyes dart wildly, searching for an escape that does not exist. "Whitaker," voice cracking, fists clenching, "you'll regret this. This is insanity." But no one is listening. The same metal that held Jamal minutes ago now clicks around his wrists. He thrashes, jerks back, but the officers holding him don't flinch. For the first time, Whitaker is not the one in control. The crowd roars. The once silent faces now chant, voices rising in unison. Crowd, chanting, relentless, unstoppable. Justice, justice. For the first time, the power dynamic shifts, not through violence, but through accountability. A young black boy clutches his mother's hand, wide-eyed, breath caught in his chest. He has seen too many endings that go the other way. But today is different. His mother looks down at him, tears in her eyes, squeezing his hand. Jamal turns, meeting the boy's gaze. A silent understanding passes between them. This is why the fight matters. Whitaker is led away, but his departure is not the victory. It is only the beginning. Jamal breathes deeply. The weight in his chest shifts, not gone, but lighter. He straightens his jacket, rubs the marks on his wrists and lifts his chin. For once, the right man wore the cuffs. Jamal, sitting at his desk, phone vibrating non-stop, notifications flooding his screen, softly to himself, almost in disbelief. It's everywhere. A video plays on his phone. Whitaker in cuffs, the crowd chanting the moment justice was served for once. Hashtags flood the screen. Justice for Jamal. Accountability now. News anchors debate on primetime television. Journalists analyze the case. The nation watches. Reporter, TV broadcast. The shocking footage of Jamal Carter's wrongful arrest and the subsequent detainment of Officer Ryan Whitaker has reignited discussions on racial bias in policing. Bystander 1, news interview. Eyes glistening, voice shaking with emotion. This could have been any of us, any black man just minding his business. But for once, the cameras caught the truth. Bystander. To news interview, firm, defiant. "We're not letting this die out. No more Whitakers. No more looking the other way." The mayor stands at a podium, flashes of cameras lighting up his face. Sweat beads at his brow as he leans into the microphone. Mayor, stiff, scripted, the weight of political pressure heavy on his tone. The city acknowledges the deep-rooted issues within our law enforcement system. "We are committed to reviewing policies and ensuring accountability moving forward." The words feel empty, but they mark a shift, a reluctant admission that something must change. Crowds take to the streets. Unlike past protests filled with frustration, this time there is momentum. Protesters, marching, holding signs high, chanting in unison. "No more Whitakers. No more Whitakers." Signs flash bold statements. "We are watching." Justice is not a favor. Black Lives Matter is not a trend. A young girl, no older than 10, grips a cardboard sign with trembling hands. It reads, "My brother deserves to come home." Jamal watches footage of the protests, a mix of exhaustion and determination in his expression. The press conference room is packed. Cameras flash, microphones extend. The murmurs of journalists fill the air. Jamal steps up to the podium, taking a slow breath. He looks out, not just at reporters, but at a nation waiting for his words. Jamal, calm, steady, but charged with conviction. "I could stand here and talk about how I was wronged, how my dignity was stripped away in seconds because of the color of my skin. But this is not just about me." The room stills. Jamal, voice unwavering. "This is about every black man who drives home at night and grips the wheel tighter when they see flashing lights behind them. Jamal, it's about the names you don't know, the cases buried, the voices that were never recorded, and the system that allowed it all to happen." A beat, the weight of his words settles in. Jamal, lower but firm. Justice is not about punishing one man. It's about dismantling the system that built him. Whitaker's mugshot flashes across news stations. Internal Affairs issues a statement. More victims come forward. The floodgates open. Reporter, TV broadcast. Dozens of complaints against Officer Whitaker, previously dismissed, are now being reviewed. The Justice Department is launching an investigation into racial profiling within the precinct. The system is cracking. The shield of silence is breaking. Martinez sits at her desk, an unexpected letter in her hands. She exhales, reading the bold print. Effective immediately, Sergeant Lisa Martinez is appointed to lead the department's first anti-bias policing initiative. She leans back in her chair, closing her eyes for a moment. Change is happening, whether the department is ready for it or not. Jamal refuses to let this become another fleeting viral moment. His office is now filled with legal documents, case, files and blueprints for something bigger. Assistant walking in holding a stack of paperwork. The Carter Initiative is getting donations from all over. People want to help. They want this to mean something. Jamal nods, flipping through the documents. Legal aid for victims of racial profiling, policy reform teams, plans for community outreach. Jamal to himself, but filled with resolve. This is bigger than me. It always was. He doesn't just criticize the system, he works to fix it. Former officers sit in a conference room, listening as Jamal introduces a new training initiative, one focused on de-escalation, racial bias awareness, and accountability. Jamal, addressing them, tone measured but firm. If you wear that badge, it should mean something. If you put on that uniform, it should stand for justice, not fear. Some officers shift in their seats, others nod. A difficult but necessary conversation begins. The city skyline stretches before him as he stands on his office balcony, phone buzzing in his pocket. He breathes in, knowing the fight isn't over. It never will be. But for the first time, he believes in the possibility of change. His phone rings again. Another case, another battle, another step forward. Jamal, answering without hesitation, voice steady, sure. This is Jamal Carter. A pause, then a quiet nod. Jamal, with purpose, with conviction. Let's get to work.